one question I have for you straight away is that I know you're going to talk about your own journey into Sikhi as well as how can you get involved in Gurdwara. But one question is that how often did you used to go to the Gurdwara Sahib before you came into Sikhi?
So generally, my family weren't practicing in Sikhi at all, really. Mom used to do part. So we'd go most Sundays, I'd say. And then whenever there was an Akhand part or a Sukhmani Sahib, and generally whenever we need to do Ardas. So there was definitely Sharda in the family, but it wouldn't be full practicing, if that makes sense.
So basically like Sunday Sikhs kind
Sunday
of thing.
Sikhs and, a sprinkle more if you like.
Yeah. What about you, Karanveer?
Yeah, pretty much the same.
Oh, TK. Yeah. I was in the Sunday Sikh. I was more like once a month, like once every 2 months or something. So just quickly then, tell us about your journey then into Sikhi then. So was you always had your case? Did you always have uncut hair? Was you Munna before?
Hanji, yeah. So generally growing up, as mentioned, the family had Sharda and Sikhi, but we weren't really practicing much. I think the earliest recollection of engaging with Sikhi that I remember was probably in year 7, year 8, where I remember I was learning Punjabi and my mum, for some reason, said start reading Japji Sahib every morning. And I just thought, chal, par lunge. I didn't understand.
What's Japji Sahib then?
So Japji Sahib, the first part within Guru Granth Sahib Ji, and the first part of a Sikh's daily prayers, then Nitnem. So I started reading it. I didn't really know much. I just did it because it kind of felt right. And you could say it was a little bit ritualistic. But just to show you the two extremes, I would read Japji Sahib, then come down and have a bacon egg sandwich, right? So I just felt weird if I didn't do it in the morning. But I do feel that because of my mum and the blessing she gave in that sense, those Japji Sahibs did grow. And I definitely experienced the fall of that. But I think what's quite important as well sometimes is we believe Sikhi to be an input-output. Quite often I'll do a Japji Sahib now, but where's the result, right?
Yeah.
And I think Guru Sahib knows when to give us that fall. And I believe in the years to come, I got the fall from, even though it was a Japji Sahib and I had no clue what it meant, I felt that it was definitely being stored away. So that was how it started off. And then following on, got through school. There was a few podcasts, a few YouTube channels then actually. One I remember listening to was Rajwana TV that highlighted the issues about Punjab, 1984, and just general things more recent that are happening in Punjab in terms of female infanticide and the current issues demographically, geographically, and economically. And then one of the real turning points was the Rajwana revolution, if you like, where everyone said, "I pledge orange," if you guys remember that. And on a non-school uniform day, a lot of my friends were up in it, so we thought, let's all wear like our Khanda hoodies and stuff, act like bad mans. And I had a Khanda armband on as well, so I was like captain for the day. So I went to school, and all these Apne were wearing orange, and we got called into an assembly, I remember. And I was on really good levels with a lot of the teachers, and I was quite respected in that sense. And I was doing well academically and whatever. So the head teacher came over to me and asked me to explain what was going on. I had no idea. I just thought, we'll get a nice photo of it, right? And luckily, I remember I was saved by one of my friends who actually knew what was happening. And then it really made me think about, what am I representing? It's good that I've worn this, but I haven't got the slightest of clue as to why I'm wearing it. And I guess you can say the research started there. And that developed to going to sixth form. I went to Nishkam High School for sixth form. The first year it opened in Birmingham, which was quite exciting actually. And there was a teacher there who was a good Sikh. He did a Sikhi class, and in particular highlighted 1984 and Sikh struggles generally. You should check him out actually. His name is Bhai Mandeep Singh. He actually does the Sikh history podcast now.
Okay.
So he's still continuing that Seva, but he was our teacher then, which is quite interesting and fun.
Wow.
So that really started to make me think about Sikhi. And then in the first year, so after first year of sixth form, Guru Sahib's Kirpa, kept my case. The school was vegetarian anyways, so that helped that transition. And I did get into drinking and a little bit and partying and stuff then. But because of the Sangat I'd found at the new school, I still interacted with my friends from previous schools. But that helped the transition, and it made a lot more sense in that sense. So yeah, and then just continuing very in a summary way. Went to university, got involved in Sikh society, got involved with BOSS, the British Organisation of Sikh Students.
Yeah.
Started to go into camps, Seek to Inspire, the BOSS camp, and then the basics one when it started. And then after university, now I had quite a nice network of Sikhs around me. So it was good Sangat in that sense. We started doing Amrit Vela programs and just started learning more really. Basics obviously was huge for me in terms of virtual Sangat. The YouTube channel was massive. and I'd go to Baljit Singh's programs and Jagraj Singh's programs whenever possible. And then after my degree, so 3 years, I realized that I wanted to take a bit of time out and just delve into Sikhi as much as I could. And I think a lot of people gave me the idea that this is the chance to do whatever you want. And I'd echo that for anyone that's listening, whether it's Sikhi or whether it's whatever else it might be in life. And then I decided, because I was taking Santhya at the time, I had the chance to go and stay in a Taksal, which is in essence a place, a Gurdwara, an institution. And there are loads of these Gurdwara that represent this institution in India, all across the world. And I got a chance to learn Santhya, develop my Santhya a little bit more, which is reading Gurbani and also learning history, learning philosophy. So that was a great experience.
How long did you go for?
So it was about 4 to 5 months.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was really hot in July, I remember.
Oh, you went in July as well?
Yeah, it was roasting. So I just, you'd have a shower, come out and just sweat. But it was a good actually in terms of learning how people live very simply. So there's no TVs, no laptops, just a simple room with, I was lucky to have the water coolers that make so much noise. And just learning a lot from the Singhs in terms of how they lived, how they greeted each other, the pyar they have for each other, the different seva to do. So that was an invaluable experience. And then funnily enough, whilst I was there, the applications came out for the Vidyalaya. So I was the year after you, right?
Yeah, after.
And then I remember applying for it. So then the second half of that gap year, I did the Vidyalaya up until February. And then just kind of naturally started got blessed with Seva, uni talks, courses. And then with basics in that sense, it just carried off from there.
Just for that point, if nobody knows, that was the basis of Sikhi school, the basis of Sikhi Academy, which I went through the year before you, then you went through as well.
Yeah.
And that lasted for about 3-4 years, I think.
Yeah.
So did you have a point, Gurdwara Singh? You was going to jump in as well?
I was going to ask, what was your daily schedule like then when you were staying in India?
Yeah, so it was quite intense actually. So we'd be woken up at 4 a.m. if you didn't get up. And then you'd go have Ishnan. Then it was kind of optional in the Darbar side. So in the Gurdwara, there would be Nityanim that was being read. But a lot of things, like I would just get up late and just quickly do my own Nityanim kind of thing. Then you'd have Ishnan. And then it was quite nice in terms of it being a collective. So the Maryada, the rules, if you like, were that everyone had to be in the Darbar side for the Nityanim Ardas, whether you did it as Sangat or whether you did it on your own. And then Deg was given out. And then we'd go and meet Baba Baldev Singh, who was the custodian of that Gurdwara, if you like, and is still around today and is helping a lot of things with their Santhya and has amazing seva. And we go and balafateh to them. And then we'd go and have some jal or some cha or some khalsa tea, whatever there was. And then that would take us to about 6 o'clock. We'd have about 10-15 minutes to chill. You'd be told what seva you're doing for the day. I got quite lucky. So I didn't get any seva to do. I could just jump in wherever. So it's quite nice.
Did you get like the NRI room as well?
I did, I got the NRI room. I got the NRI room. So I was looked after. It's luxury in that sense. And then after, we'd have our first Santhya lesson. So it's quite cool. In the Gurdwara, you'd have the Parkarma, which is the marble bit outside the actual Gurdwara complex bit, the inside building. So everyone would sit around in groups of 3 or 4 and sit with their ustad and they'd do their Santhya for the day, check it, and then you just do a bias or you'd keep practicing that throughout the day. So 6 o'clock, we'd have a lesson for an hour or 2. Then we'd have breakfast, langar pani. Then we'd have a bit of rest. And then we'd have our second lesson around 10 a.m. for about an hour or so, checking what you've done earlier and then potentially moving on as well. And then after that, you'd have seva in between. So I'd just jump in with like loads of random things, like Bartana di seva or langar di seva or just chilling or whatever, right? So it's quite nice. And then because it's so hot in the day, you just relax. So you have like a nap or you do some more abhyas or you'd go like to share to get some things or whatever, right? You go on a bit of a shopping trip. Things loved it, man. They always made me as an excuse. Like when they so they just get a bit of shutti and just go out and we'd get like soap and spend 3 hours finding soap and get some milkshakes. So it was good. And then we'd have one more lesson about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. And then you'd relax, have an ishnan again, have a bath because everyone's really sweaty and you might have been to the toilet or whatever. And then Raras, Ardas, Langar, and then bed and repeat. So it's quite intense. And I think my initial plan was to stay out for a year. But the mind is very powerful in that sense. And you just think, I've been here long enough or I want to go home now. And I think whilst you're in the midst of it, with a lot of things that are going to serve you well for your future, you don't appreciate how much it's actually doing for you and how many seeds it's actually planting. Then when I got back, probably within 6 months, I realized, man, I wish I stayed a year. I should have took another year out. But that's the dilemma, I guess, right?
So would you recommend it to anybody? Because we get a lot of messages from people saying that I want to go and learn more about Sikhi. I want to go to India. So you're actually somebody that's born and bred in the UK and has gone out to India. So would you recommend that to other people as well then?
Yeah, 100%. I know the Sangat video as well. There was a few people commenting on that.
Yeah.
So it can be quite hard to connect with people that can help you organize these things. I would say if you're not learning Santya, get in touch with an Ustad, the teacher. I know there's the likes of Nahang Santya who are perfect for that. And they most likely, like Radha Ustad, Jatinder Singh, I've stayed for 4 months, they stayed for 4 years, right?
Yeah.
So the limit, the potential is endless in that sense. So definitely get in touch through someone who's been there. And if you can, 100%, because what you'll find and what you'll learn there and what you'll nurture there are the ways of living, how to wash a kashera properly, all these little niche things, these quirky things. Trying to think of a few other ones. I remember one thing that what a Guru Sikh told me, one Singh told me, is that when you do your Ganga, make sure you put a chadar on the bed, like a little chadar, a little kapra, a little cloth, so that you can see your case, so it doesn't get lost. So these little things you can't find in a book, right? You learn from the experience. And in Sikh we call it your Rani Bani.
Yeah.
How to live, how to exist within those spaces, and things that help you in your daily life.
Anji. So you told us a lot about, yourself coming into Sikhi, going to India, going through the base of Sikhi school, and then start doing talks. So where you at today then? What's different? Because today we're talking about Gurdwara, and you spoke to us about covering this topic. So what are you doing right now then that is different to that stuff, or on top of that stuff as well?
So by day, I'm a maths teacher.
Okay.
And then we're very lucky to be involved at a local Gurdwara. So I'm part of the committee there. Committee. Before Bande start getting worried. So in terms of my involvement there, I guess I've just coined my own title. No one really asked, so I just said, I'll just put this on there. So I guess I'm the education lead, or whatever that is.
Okay.
In essence, we have a Punjabi school, a Sikhi class, and we also teach Santya to people from all backgrounds and all ages as well. So that's what we're involved in at Gurdwara. And then we also have Seva with basics in whatever shape or form that might be, which is always really cool to do. And we get called to amazing places and to meet some wicked people. So that keeps us going. And then we also get involved locally with Gurmat camps and other initiatives in that sense. Yeah, there's quite a lot on, but it's good stuff.
So what was your experience like being a part of a Gurdwara committee then?
Yeah, so I guess there's quite a lot in Gurdwara, and just how, I guess before the committee bit, just the context of how kind of weaved my way in, I guess.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really intentional at all. I think initially there was the local Gurdwara, there was a Punjabi school starting, and I thought, oh, that's cool. Like, there's a Punjabi school. And then at that point, at another Gurdwara in Smethwick, as part of university, we were doing a homework club to help kids as part of the Sikh society. And what we used to do was, for 15 minutes at the beginning, we would do an assembly on Sikhi, just something random, right? Just to give the kids a bit of Sikhi and then help them with their homework or whatever.
Yeah.
And I thought that was quite a cool idea, and the kids really enjoyed it. And because we were, quite young in that sense, we were relatable. So I thought, let's try and emulate that at the Gurdwara. And it just started off with the Punjabi school kids, because our parents, when they hear Punjabi school, they love it. They think, bachyan nu bhejna. And that's the kind of selling, the brand that sells, right? Punjabi school.
Yeah.
So I didn't really tell anyone, but I just said to the Punjabi school teachers that I'm going to take them for 15 minutes after, if it's okay with you, and just do a quick assembly about Sikhi. And that started, and the kids really enjoyed it, and slowly it grew, and then we started doing half an hour, and then we turned it into a Sikhi class, which it currently stands as now. So it's like an hour a Punjabi school, then there's an hour of Sikhi class. And that was really good. The parents really got involved. And I think being a teacher as well, you see the impact that getting parents involved has. One, in terms of them supporting their children, but also getting them involved as a family, which strengthens everything in that sense.
Definitely.
So it took about a year or two, and then the official Sikhi class started. And yeah, we just try to make it fun. We just try to give the kids love and show them that the Gurdwara isn't the standard things you expect on a Sunday, right?
Yeah.
There's way more to Sikhi. And, we did things like Nerf guns, we did role plays, we did trips, just whatever was cool, and however we could weave Sikhi into it, we just did it. So in terms of the committee, what happened was the committee at the current Gurdwara, the trustees in essence, and I'll talk about like different structures of Gurdwara in a very simple sense. they were, for one reason or another, they were getting rid of the current committee, and the new committee. I knew the president, and he asked me if I wanted to be involved, and I was like, "Child, yeah, let's do it. Let's see what happens." Right? I didn't really know what I was getting into, but I thought the scope within the Gurdwara would expand because we're already doing stuff. At that point, we'd started doing like Amrit Villa programs, like once a month on a Wednesday. So I thought this would be quite cool, and I knew the Gyanis and stuff. So then we got in with the Gurdwara committee, and then just carried on that seva really. And there's obviously a lot of ups and downs, a lot of interesting points, and a lot of learning points from that experience.
And that's really interesting, Faji, because a lot of youth nowadays, when they think of Gurdwara committees, they think of that's just like old people. There's a lot of dirty politics and stuff. So they just tend to ignore it, or they tend to be like, I don't want to get involved. So what made you then decide that I'm going to take a step in and actually make a difference?
Yeah, so I think because we already had a slight foot in the Gurdwara and we were seeing the impact it was having on the kids, and also it was a bahana, it was a reason for the parents to come. So the parents would do like langar di seva whilst the kids were in the class. And we saw this very small community starting to be built. And I guess one of the main reasons was also one of my friends joined as well. So we did it together, which also really helps. So anyone that's thinking about any venture, whether it's a Gurdwara or any other seva, if you can do it with friends, it's always better, right? So we did it together, and we kind of gave each other the nod. And I think we were watching a lot of Gurdwara Singh then, and I think Tera Pantavase was going at that point, which was a movement to try and get into a Gurdwara in London. And we thought, oh, this, we've been hearing about this, we've been screaming about this. Now is our actual chance. Let's just do it and see what happens. So that was the inspiration, really. We didn't really know what it would entail, and we just kind of got stuck in and thought we'd see what would happen.
So can you break it down for us then? So if somebody's thinking, what is a Gurdwara committee? What makes up a committee? What are the different departments and stuff like that?
Yeah, so it really depends on the Gurdwara and the structure they have in place. So in essence, every Gurdwara will have trustees, these are the people that actually own the land. Most likely 50, 60 years ago, whenever the Gurdwara was built, they took the mortgages upon their own heads. Therefore, the deeds are in their names, and if anything goes wrong, it's all on them and it all comes back to them, right? So they're in charge of making sure the Gurdwara is functioning, and they normally elect or choose a committee to do that for them. Okay. And if anything needs to get reported back to them, if they want to do an extension, they need to sign it off. They have control of the bank, all that kind of stuff, right? So then you have the trustees, then you have your committee, which is elected in a few ways. So sometimes you have elections. And I'm sure there's always been a role and stuff about elections.
Yeah.
So the Sangat, and it's quite a weird term because who is allowed to vote for these people, right?
Yeah.
Quite often you have to make memberships, and it's quite a messy system where memberships, you can only get a membership if you know another member, and there's loads of different little nooks and crannies regarding it. But whatever, there's a voting system that's governed in some way, shape, or form. So that's one way. The other way is the Sangat can elect someone in a Gurdwara. So if there's a position that isn't being filled, local Sangat, and I know this is happening in quite a few Gurdwara, just say that we want you to run this. Or as in our case, the trustees realized that there need to be a change. So they got the other ones out legally and just got us in, which was, they didn't leave very easy. So it was quite an interesting experience.
Yeah. Just that point earlier about the trustees, and you're saying that they took out mortgages. Yeah. That sounds like quite a big thing. So I know you stressed this in the past, because a lot of the time, even when you first mention committee, it's like this negative connotation with it, right? But when you hear stuff like that, it kind of gives a different perspective when it comes to people that are take upon this duty of running a Gurukar or setting one up. It sounds like a lot of sacrifice as well, right?
Yeah, huge. And I think it's a good chance to talk about the Siane or the elderly that are mainly involved in committees, right? And the bad connotations that we associate with them. Quite often we think, these old people are just holding on to positions and it's just about power. And I'm not going to lie, in some cases it is, but there's a massive context behind it. So if you go back to when my dad came or my grandparents came, first generation Sikhs came in, settled, were working ridiculous hours, living 10, 15 in a house, and then decided, as well as surviving and taking all the abuse and trying to live, we're going to establish Gurdwara, right? Which is a phenomenal thing and something we should applaud in every sense. They came together, took a mortgage on, and it's fair to say a lot of them didn't know much about Sikhi, but they had a lot of sharda, they had a lot of faith, and they realized that the community, the Sangat, need a hub. So they did what they could in essence. And they did something that I couldn't do, right? Or none of us could have do. Take a second mortgage on for a Gurdwara that had no guarantee of running successfully in that sense, from a monetary sense. So they would, work ridiculous hours and then go and work on the Gurdwara. And slowly these Gurdwaras started forming, in the main hubs. You had Shepherd's Bush being the first, then you had the likes of like a few in Birmingham, and then Southall, and slowly. So that's how they were brought up. And a lot of those elderly members in the committee or trustees are still around. So I think quite often we just see them as these people that don't want to let go. But if you think about it from their angle, and it is really important to understand this from their angle, they've put their blood, sweat and tears into that Gurdwara, and they have a lot of baggage with it. And when they see people like us, wearing 3-foot karpana and chole and coming in, like bopping around, right? Saying, hona chaida, like, this maryada is not correct.
Yeah.
They're thinking, who's this waste man, right? Who are you?
Yeah.
And rightly so to a certain extent. What we might be saying could be true, but it's really important how we say these things, and also remembering what these people have put on the line. Not to say that we should let things happen in a Gurdwara. We are accountable as Sikh to the Pant. But when I was training to become a teacher, the trainer said one really interesting thing to me, and it stuck with me throughout teaching and also Sikh spaces. She said that if you're ever going to tell a child off, you should always have something in the bank. So what she meant was that there should be a relationship with that child where there's also been a lot of praise and a lot of good moments, positive moments. So that if you have to tell that child off, imagine child X has been late 5 times in a row, but they did an amazing piece of homework 2 weeks ago and you've told them about it and you've emailed home. Then when you tell that kid off or you rinse that kid, they realize that Mr. Singh is doing it out of love and he cares for me. Whereas if I'd never spoken to that kid before in my life, or I'd never had a real conversation with them, or I'd showed an interest or some care, and I've just told that child off, then you think, why is he picking on me? And he'll probably retaliate. It's the same thing with Gurdwara committees. If you go in without a bank of experiences or a relationship with them, then quite often you're going to be hit with a stone wall. But if there's a relationship with the committees, you understand them, you know them a little bit, and you show genuine interest, and you've helped them out in the past, then they're more likely to understand and be empathetic, and also respect you for it as well. So that when you have a recommendation, they'll take it on because they know you're invested in the Gurdwara. And I think that's the bridge that over the next 5 years, people our age really need to make, because otherwise, and rightly so, they'll be like, who are you?
Yeah.
Who are you to tell us? We've been running it. We've been paying the mortgage. We've been counting the golak. We've been employing people. We come here and make the prashad in the morning. Although they might not know a lot about Sikhi, whether we like to admit it or not, they make Gurdwara run.
Hanji. And when you talk about that whole bank idea as well, of having something in the bank, that could also mean like Seva as well, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And that's like a different perspective of yourself actually now being in the Guru Card, because a lot of us, when we go to the Gurdwara Sahib, we might just go on the Sunday, we'll go Matha Tek, listen to some Kirtan or Katha, and then we'll have some langar, might do a bit of Seva, and then we go home. And that's our relationship, how we associate with the Gurdwara Sahib. But now you're within the Guru Card, you're doing Seva, you're seeing it from different levels. So what is different then from the armed Sikh, the general Sikh that's going to the Gurdwara Sahib and just, getting involved? What do you see that as different now since you got involved in the Seva, of being in the committee or just being there more often now? What is the difference? I know you're saying there's langaris. What is a langari, for example, and all these different types of Seva, etc., right?
I think being involved more, you start to appreciate all the different components of a Gurdwara and what people do behind the scenes. So even the Granthis, the people that read Guru Granth Sahib Ji, do Guru Granth Sahib Ji Seva, the effort they put in, and how much time they invest as well, and quite often how they're treated can be treated in quite negative ways sometimes by the committees and even by Sangat. It's quite sad to see. But I think you start appreciating, you start seeing familiar faces. You realize who are the bibiyan and who are the uncles coming in the morning to make prashad there, who's making the dig, who washes the chadra, who does the hoover, who wipes the sinks, who cleans the toilets. And because if you come on a Sunday, I guess rightfully so, you come and have darshan, and that's great, right? If you can't come throughout the week, definitely at least come on a Sunday. But taking it that step further, you kind of, I don't want to say this in a bad way, but you use the Gurdwara and you leave, right? I guess being in the midst of it, you see all these components and you really appreciate it a lot more. And I say, because I've been lucky enough to get involved in the Gurdwara more, I feel as if something's my jimmewari, something's my responsibility. So if a bin needs emptying, I'll just empty it. And you see these people as well that will just take things upon themselves.
Yeah.
And it might be the smallest thing where, you put the shoes and you tidy them up, or there's a few pandey that need washing, or the langari has 5 programs, Sukni Sabs on a Saturday, and there's 2 patilya that need washing, and you just chip in, right? I think those little things, imagine every member of the Sangat did one small thing of Seva. You would never need a clean up day. And it literally is, it's micro. If everyone does a tiny bit, not one person has to do a huge amount, and everyone chips in. And I think that mindset is really important, because the onus shouldn't be on a few people. Obviously, they're very blessed with the seva that they have. But I think those are the insights you start to see. And as you start building relationships, you realize that grantees, langris, they're people.
Yeah.
They have families at home. They're struggling. They want to get their kids through education. They're just normal people, right? Trying to make a living and trying to do seva at the same time. And I think that really brings you down to their level. And I think just accepting them as human beings and not just having a transaction with them and getting lost.
Anji.
I think that's really important, and they really value it. It's quite sad because they value it even more because most people don't offer them that. So what should be a normality, when you start to think, Gyani ji theek hai haju parvar, like, weekend kidhar hai, when you actually, oh my God, this guy's actually talking. He's not asking me about Gurdwara booking.
Yeah.
He's actually asking Mahal Chal. Like, I remember Langri that came from India. I said, look, Kamrit Sarko Chega, do you need like bedding or anything? Like, can I get you a tracksuit or anything, right? And he's just like, it shocked him. Like, someone's asking if I need anything. Small things go a huge way, I think, in terms of building those relationships.
I really like the way that you're saying that we should treat a Gurdwara Sahib as our home. So it's that mindset change, right?
Yeah.
That when we go to the Gurdwara, we're not just going there just to have langar or going there just for a program and then we're just going to talk with our mates and go. It's actually treating it as a place where we want to spend our time with our family, with our friends, encouraging them to do seva together. And I like what you said about doing small things but often.
Yeah.
So doing that micro actions will obviously build up and eventually accumulate, right?
Yeah, and I think there's so many things. I guess you guys can probably vouch. When you had our counterparts and stuff and Sukmi Sabs when you were growing up, I don't know how it was with you guys, but all of my cousins, like we would even stay the night at the Gurdwara and do all the seva. I'm not sure if that's what you guys used to do. I know a lot of families in Birmingham anyways, we would like have a kamara in the Gurdwara, we'd stay the night. It'd be so fun. And then all of us would be like shelling gatte, and we'd be making the dal sabji.
Wow.
And the transition from where we used to be to now, where it's like langar's made, someone's going to sort the dishes out, like go in for the porg, and then take some pictures with a nice bloom backdrop, right? How that's changed, it's quite worrying. And I think you lose a lot of the aspect. It's like an event.
It's very commercialized now.
It's so commercialized. And I think, I saw last week actually this family, and they were like random teenagers making ja. I was like, oh, it's so nice to see. And I even went up to them and said, you know what, thank you, because it's so refreshing, because you hardly see this now. So I think the onus is on us when we have an account part. Don't just pay for the part to be read. Sit in the Darbar Sahib, do chore Sahib, wash the chadra, do some roll if you can as well. Do some part, read some part, give the Gurdwara a mop, whatever it might be. Make the most of it.
Well, I feel like that's also on the side. There's responsibility in the committee to have that welcoming, spirit.
Yeah.
Otherwise, a lot of times Sevadars are like, "Oh, that's my seva. I'm not going to give up that, innit?"
If you're lucky to be at a Gurdwara where people are fighting over seva, you probably find that, right? Like Smedic Gurdwara or even Sahur Gurdwara, probably Southall for you guys. But I think, the committee has a huge role. And I think what's happened as a result of these Siani, these elderly Gursikhs that have just come, didn't really know the skills that we may have in terms of communication or even organizing, that have just survived and built the Gurdwara. They probably don't have the infrastructure, the systems in place where they, how many committees do we know that actually welcome a family in and tell them what seva is available? Things that are quite simple to do. And it's not their fault either. It's just they're not trained in that sense. So I think they've done such a huge thing. These are things that growing up in a Western world, in terms of if you do any other charitable event, if you go to a charity, Someone's going to welcome you. Someone's going to send you a newsletter. Someone's going to show you a prospectus. At Gurdwara, there's no reason why we can't be doing the same things. And what I've seen is all people need is a bit of love. Like, and you guys can try this, and anyone listening, especially if you look like us and you're Amritari, if you see a random person of Sangat to Gurdwara, just take out the time, if you're putting your shoes on, just say, "Hi, Paji, how's it going?" And they'll be like, "Oh my God, this guy's speaking to me." Or, "What have I done?" Or is either like, and then someone will be like, "Babaji, yeah, you okay?" I'm like, "No, I'm not Babaji. I'm just seeing how you are, right?" And then I'm like, "Oh, how's your day been? Like, do you come to the Gurdwara often?" And you hear some interesting stories. And I met with this one accountant randomly, and he's like, "You know what? I'd love to help out with the Gurdwara accounts." And that was just from a smile, seeing how he's doing, seeing what his relationship with the Gurdwara is. Obviously, don't go with the target that I need to recruit this person or we Lord, yeah. But just making people feel welcome. A smile goes a long way in every part of life. And they'll think, you know what? Last time I went, I met that guy in the shoes. He was really nice. I'm going to go to the Gurdwara again. Or I'm going to go Matha Tek. I remember when I used to go to work, I used to see this old friend from school, and we would meet every morning and just have like a 10-minute catch up. It was so nice. So yeah, I think little things like that go a huge way. And imagine every youth, imagine if there were 15 people in every Gurdwara that responded to new people like that. That would be huge, right? But it's not a lot to ask. Every time you go to the Gurdwara, just interact with someone on a level, see if they're okay, get them involved if you're doing something. I think those little those small things go a huge way.
So that was kind of the topic of today's podcast, right? About how do we get involved in Gurdwara and stuff. And you just gave one example there that actually, if you're already involved in a Gurdwara Sahib, then maybe smile, put out that smile, speak to somebody else, make them feel welcome. But if somebody's listening to this right now and they're thinking that I want to get involved in my local Gurugad, but they're struggling because they may feel nervous, or there's like a barrier there, maybe a language barrier as well, because a lot of the generation today cannot speak Punjabi and interact with people at the Gurugad who only speak Punjabi or understand Punjabi. So what do you say to somebody right now who's sitting at home that's thinking that I really want to do Seva, I want to go to the Gurdwara Sahib, but I don't know where to start?
I would say start anywhere. Like for me, it just started with 10 minutes of a PowerPoint, and now like Guru Kripa, I'm in the committee. And I think there's Gurdwara Singh actually talked about this a lot. It's your sphere of influence. So imagine there's two circles. One's the central circle, and one's the bigger one outside of it. The central one reflects how much of an influence you have. So it might be quite a small space, and that's where you might be initially. And then what you want to influence, I want to revolutionize the Gurdwara. I want to sort Punjab out, whatever it is, right? Yeah. That's a massive circle. But what you find is as you navigate that space of your small circle, and you start doing things, as you meet new people, as you learn new things, as you interact with different experiences, your circle of influence grows. And that's exactly what happened with me and a lot of other people that, I'm lucky to do Sangat with. And slowly, you can start having an influence on further things that you never thought would be in your reach.
Yeah.
When your circle's small and you're looking outwards, it's very hard to see how that journey will pan out. And above all, Guru Sahib's Kripa. Wherever they want to put you, they will put you.
Yeah.
You just have to make an effort. And I think that's really important and sometimes quite hard, because you might have a plan, but then you might be put in a situation that you didn't really want to be in. But then there's a seva for you to do as well.
100%.
So I think if you want to do it at Ardash, say, Guru Sahib, please bless me with some seva and put me wherever you want me to be. And just bless me so that I can do it to the best of my ability. And something will come about. Like, for example, I'll give you one of my experiences with Gurdwara. So the classes were going well, and this was on my gap year. And there was, keeping it simple, there was a group that used to do Kirtan, and there was a bit of panga around them. Some people disagreed with them, some people agreed with them. And as we were in a committee meeting, and someone rang up saying, "Oh, we'd like to book this group." And regardless of what the views on the group were, we knew that there was going to be a safeguarding issue, as in the sense that if this group were booked, people would have protested.
Yeah.
So we didn't even get into, do we believe this group to be controversial or not? Forget that. We just thought, we know because of the atmosphere, if they come to the Gurdwara, there's going to be a kickoff. So we all agreed that we're not going to book them. Not happy days. Go home. Next day, I've got about 20 people ringing me. On the poster, it says the Gurdwara's name.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, what? We just all agreed this.
Yeah.
I know what's going on. So I went back and had a conversation with one or two of the committee members. It's like, I thought we agreed this, right? And then it turned into a massive argument, like a full-blown argument. We're shouting at each other. Even I was shouting at each other. And it got really bad. I even said to one of them, if you can't do the job properly, leave and I'll take your position in the committee. And you can imagine like a 60-year-old uncle hearing that from a 22-year-old kid who's barely got a dara, right? He's thinking, who the hell are you?
Yeah.
So it got very, very toxic. And I remember, because I went in with that mindset, and it was obviously their fault as well. I'm not denying that. But there was no conversation. And I got so stressed out, it affected my mental health. I isolated myself for like a week because all I was thinking about was that thing. And although it's probably quite a minor thing, it did get quite messy in the Gurdwara. So it's one instance of Gurdwara politics, right? Even to the point where there were private security hired to make sure there wasn't a kick-off, right?
Yeah.
Like they were going to be in civilian clothes. So it got crazy. And I had people from other Sangats messaging me saying, this is your fault. You need to sort this out. And no one really cares. If someone thinks you're in the committee, they think you have autonomy over everyone, right? You can do whatever you want. They don't realize that I'm trying my best here. No one cares about that. And that's something that we should realize when we're dealing with committee members, especially people that are trying their best. Just relax a little,
Hanji.
you know, because it's not nice being on the other side. Taking a step forward, I remember speaking to Baljeet Singh about this, and I just mentioned it to him casually, and we went to go meet a Gursikh that we all know. And I was just quiet, and he's like, come, let's go meet this Gursikh. I was like, all right, safe, let's go. And he dropped it in front of the Gursikh. I was like, oh man, what are you telling him for? So I said, I'm going to leave the committee. I'm going to hand my resignation in. I can't handle this anymore. It's too much. And he told this Gursikh, and the Gursikh looked at me, he's like, nahi, chhadanani. He's like, committee jara dat ke. I was like, oh man, I'm stuck in it now. And with a Gursikh like that, if they give you a button, you man it, right? You accept it. So I thought, oh, I'm stuffed either way. If I leave, then I'm going to go against this Gursikh's button. If I stay, then my head's going to keep hurting. So I thought, I got to stay now. I'll see what happens. Within 2 or 3 days, I don't know what happened, but the whole situation sorted itself out. The group cancelled themselves. And I don't know what happened. I don't know who had a chat with them. I don't know how it happened. But I do honestly feel that was one way in which I was given a sign to say, stick it out. And it was also a test for me as well in that sense, which I obviously failed because I was about to give it all in. But in the midst of it, it's very hard, especially when those choppy times come. But after that, like if I reflect now, if I wasn't in the committee, the things that we would have been able to do would have been out of reach. The evolution of the Gurmat classes, we have regular basics programs there, Santya classes, how much freedom we have to do our own parts or, youth-led things, access to Gurdwara funds, sponsorships, resources. You only realize after you've come out of it. And I think for anyone that does go through a hard time in a Gurdwara committee, there is a limit. I do agree that if it's really affecting your mental health and it's a very toxic environment, then you might need to step back at some point. But don't just throw the towel in because it's getting a little bit hard, right?
Hanji.
I think that's a really important point you mentioned as well about the current committees. There's always a lot of politics between them, and people don't realize that there's a lot of fragmentation between the committees. So most of the time, you are going to have like a split in the committee, and people are going to be blaming each other. And we need to maybe kind of cut some slack for certain individuals who are trying their best. And we shouldn't have such high expectations, maybe, because they're trying the best in the situation that they're in. So I guess we should make the best out of the situation, right?
Yeah, and I think it's weird because after that experience, it's been amazing. Like even the people I was arguing with, we're on great terms now. And I think I apologize for what I said. I knew I shouldn't have said that. Like that wasn't the time for me to start shouting. And I think I did go back a week later and say, this is why I was frustrated. But when I apologized, I didn't apologize saying, I'm sorry for calling this, but you were wrong. And I think there's a tariqa, there's a way of saying things. And that needs to be genuine as well, that I was genuinely sorry for saying this because I know how much time you put into the Gurdwara. I was just angry. And then I came to that point a week later, and then he kind of understood as well. So I think you need to treat people how you like to be treated. And I think as the youth, you will need to take more than you probably give quite often. And that's just the dynamics. And you know what? We could probably owe it to the elders because of the stuff they've given up anyways. I think, what was your question again, sorry?
Mine was just I was making a
comment.
point.
About
but-
the politics, right?
But if you want to touch more upon like the whole, because it's like a westernized
Yeah.
system of this committee system.
Yeah.
And like a couple of years ago, I actually worked in the membership making process at my local Gurdwara. And I actually
Gotta read
saw,
things you got.
I can give you an inside scoop. I saw like all the dirty ways that people like were abusing the system.
Yeah.
So we think like a democratic system is the best way to run things, but often that's not the case.
Yeah.
Can you give us some of the dirt then?
I'll give you an example. So for example, people so you have area-based membership, right? So it's limited in an area. But what people would do is they would bring some of the people who are their supporters, and they would say, buy a lifetime membership, and then you change your address in it, and you're moving away. So they'd have people coming in, they would pay for their membership, lifetime membership, then they've got like definite votes coming in for their party. So there's always like loopholes and tricks people used to use. So in your opinion, then what can we do about these systems?
You South of one, they kill it, man. So one thing I will say, first of all, just going back, I remember what I was going to say now is the politics of it. So as I mentioned, I'm in quite a good situation now. I'm lucky enough to keep everything at arm's length. And you have to really pick your battles because it can become quite a lot of weight on your shoulders. So I realized some things like, for example, the dig being handed out with a chamcha after COVID, right? I tried saying, look, just wash your hands, like, just give it out with your hands. But then I thought, am I really going to kill myself over this? Okay, it's not ideal. But one example of, am I going to go to war with someone about the egg being given out with a chamcha, which needs to be addressed, but what's the priority in that sense? So I think it's important to address what's important and what's the priority initially, but also only get involved where you need to. And that will be different for everyone depending on the committee, depending on the situation. So now we've got an extension going on. I'll help out. So I'm trying to source now electricians. So if anyone knows a good electrician, comment part deal. But then other than that, I'll strictly keep it to helping out in the Darbar Sahib, attending Gurdwara meetings, writing letters of recommendations, helping the elders with the emails or whatever it is, and our Sikhi classes. Other than that, the bills, the pays for the Gyanis, I don't really get involved too much. And I think you have to pick your battles. So that's the one thing I would say. In terms of what an ideal situation would look like, obviously Guru Sahib has set up a system of Panj Pyare. So 5 recognized Gur Sikhs that in essence are of a very high level. And when I think of Panj Pyare, I think of 5 people that could administer Amrit. So people that have got Gurbani Kant, well versed in Itihas. In an ideal situation, you have those 5 people calling the shots and having equal equity in that sense. But as we realized, that's not how the Gurdwara was set up. And even in the 1920s, when the British were involved and handed things back over to the Punjabi, a lot of the SGPC and the committee in that sense was, the seed was planted for that in Punjab as well, right? And that sprouted out wherever we went.
So sorry, just on that, what was the system before the whole British intervened?
So from my understanding, there was a Jathedar of a Gurdwara, for example, Akal Takht, and then you have Singh Sahibs. So the Jathedar is the overarching leader, if you want, in simple terms. And he would be elected by the Sangat or by esteemed Gursikhs. And there is a conversation to be had about who should be allowed to have an input. And I think we need to iron this out. And it's not an easy fix because, quite frankly, your Sikh that comes every Sunday, Matha takes and leaves, shouldn't really be having an input. If someone's not qualified, and this is a hard truth a lot of people don't like to swallow, because quite often everyone thinks they're valid to an opinion. For me, if you're not practicing to a certain level, then you're not valid to an opinion. Even though you might attend the Gurdwara, that's fair enough. If you're not practicing and you don't understand Sikhi to a certain level, or you're involved to a certain level, then quite frankly, what you say is irrelevant.
Yep.
And a lot of people won't like to hear that, but it's the truth. The problem we have is, how do you categorize someone that can have a say and someone that can't have a say? For example, you could have an Amritari that comes once a week and knows loads about Sikhi, but then you could have someone who is not Amritari but does 2 hours Seva at the day at the Gurdwara. I'd say the person that does Seva probably has more of a vote than the Amritari, right? So it's very hard, and then there's not a system for deciphering who that is. Quite often, as you said, it gets down to buying votes or who has the most henchmen. So that's really murky waters at the moment. I don't have an ideal situation. One quick fix would be when the Sangat invests in the Gurdwara and when the Sangat starts holding people accountable. So if you've got regular Sangat at a Gurdwara that are seeing things happening and are involved, they might not be the committee, but if something's going wrong and they're there enough to see it, you can call someone out for it. Or if you have improvements or suggestions, you can make those suggestions. And that might even evolve as a collective Sangat to say, we want this person getting involved more. And traditionally, leaders would never step to the front. They would be pushed to the front. And one that comes to mind is Nawab Kapur Singh in 1733 when Zakaria Khan wanted a ceasefire. They gave Nawabi to the Pant. And Pan Singh, including Bhai Mandeep Singh, I believe, and some other great Gursikhs, chose Nawab Kapur Singh because he was one of the most amazing Gursikhs at the time. So his Seva was Kore Adi Seva. He would literally pick up the manure of Kore. And he said, no, I'm not doing it. I'm happy with my Seva. And they recognized him for his traits in Sikhi and his purity in that sense. And only after Pan Singh, 5 Singhs gave him an order, command, a hukam, then he said it, that I'll take it upon. And if you think about what he started and paved, he nurtured Jasar Singh Ji Ahluwalia. That led to the formation of the missiles. In essence, that was the foundation stone for Maharaja Ranjit Singh Ji's Raj, which, is huge. That was a Khalsa Raj, if you like. And that all stemmed from someone not wanting to be in a position of authority. Even Sant Janel Singh Ji, a lot of Gursikhs didn't want to be in the forefront. They were pushed. But they had enough Kamai respected Gursikhs around them to know who to push to the front. That's the hard bit.
I guess the whole 5 Gursikhs or having a Jathedar, a leader, is at the ideal situation, right?
Yeah.
But I guess kind of like with your example and examples that we see of other committee members, it's kind of like if you're sitting there on the sideline and it's something that you're not happy with, then kind of get involved yourself and make the difference. Yeah. So though you may not agree with the system, 2 wrongs don't make a right. No. So it's kind of like, actually, I need to get involved in. I need to make a difference. Where can I make a difference in the Guru Card? Where can I do Seva? So a lot of times people actually join committees knowing that they don't agree with 99% or maybe 80%, but at least they can make a difference. And I know for us, with our own personal experiences, doing Seva, basis of Sikhi, and doing talks in Guru Cards, it's those people that get us in.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? So like you said earlier, there's a split in the committee, right? You'll have, the 20% that you agree with, and the 80% which you don't, and those that represent the 20% will get blasted for the 80% of what the 80% are doing wrong, right?
Yeah.
But we need those 20%. We need that person to get us in because otherwise we won't get our bookings.
Yeah.
Because they're just going to Punjabi Katha and they're not going to want all these other kind of programs that we want, right? So I think it's just giving that perspective and the idea, and actually why it's so important that people do get involved in committees. And we talked about this before the podcast as well, that, a lot of times people, when it comes to committees, including myself, I've been vocal about this in the past, that I don't want to get involved in politics. That's just a personal decision. But then for someone like me then, or for, just people out there that are against it, what would you say to them then? What is from your angle, because you said that you're kind of none the wiser at the start, right? When it came to this stuff, but how do we expect to get change then if we don't get involved? So that's kind of, I'm asking you to maybe some jar to me as well and other people with this kind of stuff. Or do you think it's okay that some people don't get involved and some people do? What's your reach out on that?
Quite simply, I think there's a rhetoric or there's an understanding that as savage as it is, if you like, at some point all these old people are going to die.
Yeah.
And then we're just going to have kulli shutti to go into the Gurdwara and just do what we want, right? That's not going to happen.
No.
Because that would have happened by now.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, there are people already being introduced to that system. And I think in terms of getting involved, you don't have to be in the committee to get involved. That's really important to understand as well. And as I said, there's a tariqa. So for example, if you're not happy with something in the Darbar Sahib, try and think of a random example. If you're not happy that they don't put toof on in the Darbar Sahib, rather than complaining about it, just buy some toof and go every morning and put it on.
Yeah.
And the Gyanis or the grantees of the committee, if someone argues with you about it, that's fine. Try your best to have a chat with them. If they're not working, then, move on. that was one random example. Or for example, if you're not happy with the way Guru Sahib Seva is done, so I know at our Gurdwara for a long time, the way Sukhasan was done, like Maharaj's Bastar weren't changed every day. They were changed like once every 2-3 days.
Anji.
So I had a chat with the grantees, and then we started doing programs as well. So we'd actually do Prakash of Guru Granth Sahib Ji every Wednesday. And it worked twofolds, because they saw these guys are getting involved. And, you know, if I needed to cover the grantees role for 20 minutes because you need to go do something, I'll jump on, right? So one way they thought, you know what, these guys aren't just saying it from the outside. They want to be a part of this. So let's try and listen to them a little bit more. And they did. But on the other side, if you're involved, they know that I can't get away with it as well.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest, in Gurdwara, some people, whether they're paid or not, will try and get away with things, whether that's grantees, langaris, committee members. And if you're just going and matha taking, you're not going to know the ins and outs. But if you're actually doing Parkash Guru Granth Sahib Ji, you'll see how the Sarup is being treated. If you're there for Sukhasan, you'll see and make sure everything's as it should be. So it works both ways. Now, you can correct things without telling anyone. You can just go in and correct them to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Right? You can't start going in saying, I need a check for £10,000 because I need to do this in the Gurdwara, right?
Yeah.
That probably won't work. But small things, like another problem at a lot of Gurdwara is langar is self-serve. And someone hasn't washed their hands and then it gets juta and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Get together with a few friends, and when it's busy, just start a langar rota. No one's going to stop you to go and serve the langar, right?
Yeah.
So it's simple things. And I think when people, actions always speak louder than words. When the langari sees you're helping, when the committee sees, you know what, Nawab they're helping with the langar, they're doing safai, you know, this is really good. Because that's the things they're struggling with, right?
Yeah.
They don't have, you know, a lot of Gurdwaras don't have regular Sevadaars to clean things, to do langar bartona. So then they come up with these other mechanisms because they just don't have the manpower.
Yeah.
You know? So if the langari is there, for example, if the langari is there in the morning, he makes his dal, prashadda, he makes everything, then is he expected to stay there throughout the whole day and just wait till someone comes to have langar? You know, what if he's got stuff to do in the day? What if he needs to speak to his family?
Anji.
So then he's got no other option just to leave the langar there.
Yeah.
And then just let people help themselves, right? So I think it doesn't always need to be a conversation. You can actually go and implement the change. And that will lead to a conversation in itself where you can have more influence.
That's great, because again, you might just think that, okay, it's committee. If I want to make a difference, to go join the committee. But like you're saying, you could just go to the Guru Card and get involved at let's just say at a different level, not a lower level, just at a different level. And this is what we're speaking about in the call, right? When we talk about you have those that in the committee, they have their seva, then you have those in the bar side.
Regular Sevadaars, yeah.
Hanji, do you elaborate on that?
I wanted to share an example of like what you were saying in terms of working with the people that are already there, the Sevadaars, the Bujurg and the elderly people. So like in our local area, we wanted to start a monthly Amrit Villa at the Gurdwara and like get youth involved.
Yeah.
But then the people that are doing the monthly Amrit Villa slots already, they're regulars who've been doing it for 30 years. So why would they just give away the slots like that? They're not going to, are they? And especially to youth who are like, you've only started coming like last week. Why should we give you the slot? So it's really like you have to get involved first. You have to first show up, show your face, right? And then once you're involved and they see you're involved, you're invested, then they'll only give you. So then they've given us one slot a month. And so from that one slot a month, we'll eventually build up. But the main thing is we have to do it with sadaqah. You have to have respect. You can't just force your way in and be like, but then there's another point as well that if you are getting too old to do a seva, you should be able to let go, right?
No, I think like that's a perfect example. If someone's already doing, like, first of all, a Gurdwara that has a regular Amrit Villa Diwan is blessed. If you want to start Amrit Villa Diwan, then just start turning up to theirs.
Yeah.
You know? Like, just show that it's not just your Amrit Villa Diwan. We just want to do it for the pala of the Sangat, right? That's a perfect example. And they'll say, munda hunda ya, inu keh diya ke 10 minute kirtan kar lo. And then you could say, we've got actually, there's a group of us. Can we do one day? And then they'll come to yours as well.
Yeah.
And I think it is very important as well. And I'll go back to Nawab Kapur Singh, because even though they're only 53, which is like prime time for committee member, right? That's your peak, right? Even though they're only 53, they passed on the Jathedari to Jassa Singh Aluwalia. So even though they were amazing, and they're poor and good Sikh in that sense, they knew it was time to pass on the baton. And just as the Aluwali, I believe, was 33 at the time. So I think, and this is for us as well, because we will be in those positions very soon.
We need to realize when the time's right, we need to also give the seva to the next
100%.
person, the next generation.
And I'll pass it on why I think a lot of elderly people have that problem. If you think about their lives, the Gurdwara is everything to them. The Gurdwara gives them importance. It gives them meaning. Everyone in life needs a sense of belonging. Yeah. And we're very lucky that we've got many senses of belongings. I've got my work, I've got my friends, I've got my family, I've got the Guru Karna, I got sports, I got books, I got podcasts, whatever. We can do so many things with our life. But the Buzurg, because they came from Punjab, they built these Gurdwara, they have a regular catch up with their friends with Jah at 10 o'clock every morning. They do a bit of Seva, they'll count the golak, whatever it is. Outside of that experience, they have nothing. A lot of them, they don't go and play golf. They don't do these recreational things that we will do when we are old. Like kind of, I guess, the elderly white community do, right? They're loving life. They won't go to the beach or they won't go to Lake District to retire. They don't have anything else. So one, even though it might be time, they might not want to let go because that will mean the end for them.
But maybe that's also on us to build the infrastructure to support them.
Most definitely.
So like during COVID, during all the lockdowns, you saw the elderly people's mental health deteriorated so much.
Yeah.
And you could tell, like I heard so many stories of people who, because they're just locked away at home, elderly people, they have nothing. They have no connection to the outside world.
Yeah.
So what can we do to support them then?
So I think it's really important that, first of all, just finishing off that previous point, that it is important to acknowledge that. And when we come in as youth, trying to threaten that, it's not right for them to hold on to the position. But you have to understand that that's all they have. So, throw them a bone a little bit in that sense. In terms of providing a space, a platform, or supporting them in that sense, I think there's loads of things we can do. Organize things for them. I know like a lot of Gurdwara have done Jada Cup with a lot of elderly Bibiyan, where youth, young Bibiyan and elderly Bibiyan come together, have Ja and Mitha, and just talk. And you know what? There's so much to learn from elderly. Like I did work experience a nursing home in sixth form, and I learned so much. And mainly Gore, a lot of white elderly people, they were just so happy to see a young person. And I think if we start investing in the lives of our elderly, one, we will benefit so much. Like, how many of us know what hardships the trustees went through? Like, what did a week look like in your life when you're trying to pay 2 mortgages and send money back home to India? And it will slap us up a little bit, right? Like we complain about all these things, and we're cushy, we got everything going for us. These guys slept 3-4 hours a day and still had a massive smile on their face. There's so much to learn from these people. And also going forward in terms of that transition, we need to start getting involved more. And there's some things that I get worried about, like how many of us know how to make dal for 200 people? How many of us know how to make prashadi?
Or even dig.
I don't know how to do a torka. Yeah, dig. I mean, how many of us know how to make dig? So if we start supporting in that sense, you could go once a week on a Saturday or Sunday and ask the Langri or the Gyani, say, can I help make dig? And then that could be a once a week seva. But then when a camp comes up, and we find this with Singh's camp and Basics camp, we need someone that can make dig. And we're like trying to fly people over, right, to make dig, because we've got no one that can make dig. Even with like, obviously we're very lucky we have the matama, the mums, the Bibiyan gang that we say, come and make all the langar. But for a Singh's camp, we always get stuff because we can't make anything, right?
Now, I have to say the langar was good at Singh's camp.
That's good.
Shout out to the Sevadaars.
But yeah, so it's important we start taking we start helping the elderly with them. And I think naturally, as we get involved with Seva, as you learn about elderly, so like there's a committee member I know, and we're quite well. Sometimes he has ill health. I haven't really helped him much, but I'll check in on him. I know where he lives, and he knows he can ring me if I ever need him, right? So that's a support network for him. A lot of these committee members, their kids aren't into Sikhi, and they've moved away, and they're just husband and wife, and they're just doing their own thing. So as you invest your time and make relationships with them, you'll find things yourself that will keep them occupied. You might go and visit them once a week. Now, when we have kids camps, a lot of the old auntia come and help with the langar, and it keeps them involved. So I think as you become friends with these people, you will find things that they will really appreciate and will support them. And maybe it might give them an insight to a life where they can pass on that Jummebari But I guess you'll only know and start finding that out once you venture in that space, right? So I think just echoing that point, it is really important we start learning these skills. How do we make dal for 200-300 people? How do we make deeg? How do you take a hukamnama? If a Sangat member comes to do ardas for their new house, what are you meant to do? I mean, like little things. Because I'll be like, if I'm in a chola at the Gurdwara, someone like, Baba ji ardas kar diyo. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah.
So I've just kind of made it up. And I asked again, did I say that right? Like, what's that meant to do? Am I meant to take a hukamnama? Are we meant to take deeg? And they'll tell you like, idda karo, na. So it's quite cool. And then Sangat also, when they know that they can come to you, and especially for English speaking, if they know that, like I had someone ring me yesterday saying, oh, we bought similar to you guys, we bought a plot of land and we're going to start cultivating it. Shout out DGN Farm or whatever it is. He's like, oh, can you do ardas for us? I was like, yeah, no problem. But he probably would have had no idea how to approach a Gyani. So I think you start becoming the intermediary for people that maybe wouldn't have a relationship with the Gurdwara that now can, because you can speak their language.
It kind of goes back to your initial point when I asked you the question about getting involved in a Guru card, how you're able to do that. And you said ardas or just turn up, right? Because when you just turn up, even just from personal experience, like the first type of seva I actually did really was just get involved in the stall.
Yeah.
So based on Sikhi. And I actually met you at the stall seva back like 6 years ago.
I remember you should have in West Brom.
Yeah, so that's like the first thing me and Mana met was doing stall seva for basics, right? And now Guru Kirpa, look where we are today with the Guru's grace. But it was
Started from the bottom.
Start from the bottom. What's wrong with stall seva, bro? But you get the idea though that from doing such a you could say a simple seva in that respect, just standing at a stall, speaking to people, giving out leaflets, to another thing is that, so when you're doing that kind of seva, you're just surrounding yourself with opportunities
100%
to grow and to get better, right? And then opportunities present themselves, even like learning Gurbani, how to read Part, because you talked earlier about Santhya classes, Gurmat classes, these kind of things. Then you find people that are more skilled in certain areas, right? And then what eventually happens is that there's that one day when they tell you to do something, and then you have to do it. Like, for example, many years ago, I'd never do ardas. I don't do my own ardas, but I don't do sangat di ardas, innit?
kept it for yourself.
Yeah, okay, not like that. It's nerve-wracking, innit?
Yeah,
You got to stand in front of people and you got to say the
intimidating.
right things. How do you say it? And but then you get forced to do it. Then you learn this kind of, you know how to do ardas. Like, for example, the last basics camp, I had to do majority of ardas, and I was like, that's crazy, because a few years ago, I never want to do ardas, right? Or whether that's doing Guru Sahib Seva. I remember speaking to one Singh, and he was like, you're very lucky that you get to do all this seva. And I was like, I know I'm very lucky, but I'd say at the same time, it's because it's with the Guru's grace, I've put myself in that position
100%.
with and then the opportunities that presented themselves. So it kind of echoes your point that I said earlier, that when it comes to whatever it is, getting involved in a Guru card, just turn up to the Gurdwara Sahib. And that one day, I remember back in the day when I first had at the start, then people kind of noticed you more at the same time I for seva, and I got to do chore Sahib di seva. So like, imagine like, when was the first time that you got to do chore Sahib di seva?
It was at a bus camp.
So how old were you?
I was
then?
about 18, 19, I think.
And you've been going to the Guru card for how long?
All my life.
Your whole life.
Yeah.
Right? But now you've put yourself in that position where you have the opportunity to do seva. Right? So going to Sikhi camps is very important as well, right? Because then you have more opportunity to do things that you would never do anyway. But because I started going Gurdwara once a week, when I never used to go once a week, go every single day, then one day they just say to me, there's nobody else who can do chore Sahib di seva. Can you go and sit there? And I was like, whoa. Like, you're doing chore Sahib. And my mom was like, whoa. She took a picture of me.
Sent it to
It was
everyone.
better. I was
WhatsApp
like,
DP.
I was like, what are you doing, mom? Like, Papa come to the front, get the phone. She doesn't have to, she's like,
Live stream.
live stream. But the main point is that, it's basically echoing your point that, you have to be in that position and the opportunities will come to you. You never know where you end up, because I looked at myself thinking that I'm so blessed to be to do Guru Sahib di seva.
Yeah.
But you have to invest in yourself as well. That was my other point. And that's where the Gurmat classes are so important, because if you can't read Gurbani, if you can't do certain things, then you're not going to get these opportunities that maybe that you want to do.
Yeah.
And even making dal for 200 people, you may be at a Sikhi cat one time and they say, can you help out with the Langar di Seva for the camp, and you might just learn how to make prashad, right? Deg is prashad, the tasty pudding, or because people don't know deg half the time. What's this deg that you're on about, right? So prashad, very simply, or how to make dal for 200 people,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So and you'll be shocked. Like I'm amazed, but I still don't know a lot. But I'm sure you can echo this in you guys as well, that you've learned so much just from being there and somebody else telling you, this is what you need to do. And you mess it up a lot of times, get scolded. I once got called a puppy because I made a mistake.
my
He wanted to swear at me. He's like, you puppy, because he couldn't say anything else. Right? And I was like, that hurt more. I'd rather got F word than a puppy, right? In that respect. But I think there's two things. Put yourself in that position.
Definitely.
Do Sangat, keep company on those people. Opportunities to present themselves, but the more time you invest into yourself, things like again Gurbani, Gurmat classes, which maybe you could expand if you don't have another point that we're going to mention, and the importance of what you're doing now and how people can get involved. Maybe you have to invest in yourself as well, and that's where you can't be lazy. And then you'll see the growth in your own Sikhi and getting involved in different things in the Guru card, which 5 years ago you think wouldn't have been possible.
Yeah, I think I'd say 60-70% of with Guru Kirpa, the skills I have now in a Gurdwara environment, I learnt them because at some point, someone that normally does it wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I had to do it. But as you said, it's only because I was in that situation. And I think it is really important that, as you both said, knock on a door and see what opens, right? If you don't knock on the door, nothing's going to open for you. And it's important to realize how important Seva is. Like, Guru Sahib says, जिस मस्तक भाग सु लगा सेव, जिन्हां दे मत्थे दे उत्ते वड्डे भाग ने उन्हें सेवा मिलदी है. The only people with great fortune get seva. Now, one could think, I'm going to sit at home. If it's written on my forehead, I'll get a letter through the post from Gurdwara saying, we need you on this day.
Or bad joke, you just get actually write Seva on your forehead.
Right. Viral pen. Or another way of thinking it is that those people that actually make an effort are blessed as well. And even Bhai Gurdash ji says that Charan Pankti ki hai, was it?
Charan the sun good ek penda
Haan
Satguru Kot penda aago he deta hai.
By taking one step towards Guru Sahib, they come and receive you by making hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that we're all on different levels. That one step is very individual to all of us. And the analogy I make is, you think about your shoe size. So some of us has big feet, some of us has slightly
This is where the small jokes come in, isn't it?
Yeah. And so and the foot size relates to how long you've been in Sikhi. So if I've been in Sikhi longer, my step will be bigger. If you've just started, your step's going to be tiny. Doesn't mean you're not making a step, but it's individual to you. And that one step might be just go and wipe the sink every time you go to the Gurdwara. For me, it might be, I need to go and learn how to make deg. As you come, Guru Sahib, and it's unexplainable how it happens.
Yeah.
Guru Sahib will put you where you need to be. So I think that's really important, and it's quite exciting as well. And you find Sangat.
Yeah.
You find Sangat. The best people I spend my time with is all people that I do Seva with.
My God.
And they become your friends as well. And it's just like Seva friends, and you just lift each other up. And I think that's quite a beautiful thing when it happens as well.
And even if you could also say, if you have friends and you want to get together and do seva together, do something together, then get involved together and go to the Gurdwara and do these little things, because you'll make it fun as well then.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one other thing that's really important is, these skills that are byproduct of getting involved in the Gurdwara. One thing you'll learn is how to speak Punjabi. Being involved and having to speak to some auntie or committee member Punjabi, and you're doing your own bestie, you'll sound, funny for a little bit. But honestly, I believe my Punjabi has increased so much because I have to speak Punjabi with the grantees or with the committee members or with an auntie that has a question. So in that sense, just by being in that environment, you will learn things that, will come just as a natural byproduct. So it's really powerful in that sense as well.
And just one point I want to mention as well, because you said Guru Sahib Ji is there as well, right? We say Gurdwara.
Yeah.
Guru, Dwara, the door of the Guru, the home of the Guru. So that's the central point, right, of everything.
Yeah.
Right? That's the whole point of going to the Gurdwara Sahib as well. So how has this helped you with your relationship with Guru Sahib Ji?
I think my prosa, in terms of my faith generally, through the little experiences I've had, has really developed and has increased. I think also I've appreciated how important Guru Sahib Seva is, and I've also appreciated I guess, the level that a lot of Gursikhs would have been at initially. And I always think about Akhand parts, like, you know how we said they're quite commercialized now.
What's an Akhand part?
Akhand means without a break. Part means when you read part continuously. So 48 hours from beginning to end of Guru Granth Sahib Ji. And I thought about like 100 years ago, how many parties there would have been, how many people could read Ladivar, and how much effort and kamai they would have put in. And to have a counterpart in the pen would have been a big thing, right?
Yeah.
It's not like you can go and pay for one. It's hard to find someone that could do a counterpart. And so it would have been a huge thing. And I think I appreciate a lot more the effort that goes in to doing Guru Sahib Seva. But obviously your relationship as a result turns tenfold. So, for example, if I ever have a question, I know that I need to get advice from Guru Sahib or Hukam. I know every Wednesday morning we're going to do Prakash, so that I can do Ardas to Guruji, and the Hukamnama I can take as my answer. And having at least once a week where, you know, it's a very intimate relationship with Guru Sahib is so helpful and just keeps me in a direction in that sense. And also the Seva itself, I would say, brings your Sikhi up without you really knowing it. So there's so many benefits to it in terms of your relationship with Guru Sahib. And as always, you meet Sangat, and through Sangat, up there, your relationship and your love and your prosa and your faith in Guru Sahib increases. And you see so many little things. So I'll give you another example. One thing I will say is it can get very lonely.
Yeah.
It can get very lonely.
And we've spoken about this as well, right?
Yeah, it can be a very lonely road. So I would say, and this isn't me trying to big myself up saying, you know, oh, I smashed it or anything like that. For about 4 years, or only up until about last year or year and a half ago, it was very lonely at the Gurdwara. It would be the kids, obviously, and their parents, but you like being around people your own age.
Yeah.
And what happens, and this is also important, is that youth get attracted to Gurdwara where things are already established. And that's really important for your own Sikhi to develop and to do Sangat, right? But it's 10 times harder going where there isn't stuff established, yeah. And none of your friends are going to be there on a Saturday or a Sunday. And it's on a New Year's Eve, it's just going to be you on the stool, because no one wants to do that. I'd rather be with my friends at whatever Gurdwara. So I would say it does get lonely, but it is important that you need to branch out. And that's why we mentioned, if you can do it with friends, do it with friends. But I just kept doing it Ardas and Guru Sahib, I need help here, I need help. Like we've got 50 kids coming and I'm teaching 7-year-olds and 16-year-olds in the same Sikhi class. I can't do it.
Yeah.
And then I remember Gurpreet Kaur, who does Kirtan. So we went to university together. She got married in Birmingham. And she randomly rang me, like, oh, I want to get involved in some Seva. And I was like, Maharaj, gal sun liya na. So she started helping out with the classes. And then there's another Benji Tanveer Kaur. She's a primary school teacher. And then she rocked up. And then we started Santya and things just started expanding. And randomly, all these people just started popping out of nowhere. And then one thing that really changed the dynamic is when we as Sevadaar start invested in other people, they become your helpers.
Yeah.
So, I'm very lucky. Baljeet Kaur, my wife, she also teaches Santya. So like even my marriage helped because she now takes the Punjabi school. Her Punjabi is wicked. My Punjabi is crap in that sense, right? She can teach Punjabi as a Punjabi teacher. So she's filled that slot and now she teaches Santya as well. And then what we're starting to see is the kids that we've been teaching for 4 or 5 years, they're delivering talks. And the adults we've been teaching Santya for, they're now teaching Ura Era. And now we're going on to Nityanim. So a system has started to be created where it starts nourishing itself. And it's really important to think of things sustainably. If you don't invest in people, and I've seen this I guess you guys have seen this, so many organizations and Gurdwara where a group of friends have come together, created a wicked organization, done some crazy prachar for like 5 years, had some wicked camps, they've got married, they've had kids, and then it's been empty. It's because the amazing stuff that they've done, they haven't planned for the future. And I think one thing, if you are going to commit to something in a Gurdwara, what I would say is it needs to be often. Like Sikhi camps, like we're involved with Sikhi camps, and it does come down to the youth, right? You need a balance of learning yourself and topping yourself up, but then also passing it on as well. If you just keep passing everything on, you're going to come to a glass ceiling where you've taught everything you know. If you just learn everything for yourself, that's great, but that's only for yourself, right?
Yeah.
And what you'll find is when you start teaching other people, 2 things happen. You'll remember and you'll learn what you've learned way better. and you'll be forced to learn more because you have a responsibility to teach other people, which you've probably found from Qatar, right?
100%.
And in that sense, the system starts created, and you get this whole group of people. And as I mentioned, it's really important to create that system where we're looking 5-10 years. So in my Sikhi class, I know the 3 or 4 kids I want to keep really close because I want them teaching Sikhi class in 10 years. Or I want them to be influencing their Sikh societies at the universities. If you think about it from a very granular level, you don't know where those seeds will be planted and where they go. They might go and inspire a Sikh society. In that Sikh society, you might inspire 5 people. They might go into their professions. One might be a barrister. One might work in law. One might become an investor that becomes a millionaire and then puts funds back into the fund. You don't know, right?
Yeah.
One thing I would say though is what we're very good at is off the cuff things. One Sikhi camp a year, or a random kids camp where 200 kids come and then they go. Kids need, and generally people need, regularity.
Consistency.
Kids need, especially if they come to Sikhi and they have no Sikhi at home, kids need role models that they know personally, that they're comfortable with, that they can have a laugh with. And they need role models they can ask or connect with and be on standby. And that doesn't come from a year camp. That comes from week in, week out. Or if you can do twice a week.
Yeah.
You need to get to know these kids and nurture them as your own. And what I've found, if the kids trust you and the parents trust you, I've helped parents get their kids into schools, and then as eventually we've started taking the kids that are from standard Punjabi backgrounds that would never have got involved in Sikh spaces. Like some of them came to Singh's camp and they saw loads of Singhs for the first time. So it is really important that there is consistency. I think whatever you do it consistently. Because in that sense, people start relying on you as well. We had to cancel the class this week, and the kids were like, "Why are you cancelling it? What are you doing?" Because for a lot of these kids, you'll find some kids that don't get much of an opportunity. Like we took the kids every Christmas, we take them bowling. Some kids have never been bowling before. Some kids have never been out of Birmingham. You know what I mean? It's absolutely crazy. And also, I think we have those of us that I'm very lucky enough to be in a professional environment, a very thriving environment. I learn skills in terms of how to present myself, how to interact with people, how to learn things, how to do well in academics, how to look for jobs. We need to also look after that sector as well of the kids. Like Jewish communities, Muslim communities do this really well. They look after their own. And what you'll find is that creates a whole new pathway for investing in your community, because the people that are learning Sikhi are going to high places and they'll protect Sikhi and make it flourish there. But also what that opens up to is a whole new kettle of fish. This Punjabi Sunday Sikhs that wouldn't come to an Amrit Villa program might help out with mentoring. And that's something we're actually working on, a mentoring database. I know so many Apurne that are in very, very high positions. And if you ask them, yo, do you want to come to a Sukni Sahib? Like, Shad Pari, I'm not coming.
Yeah.
If you ask them, yo, would you mind doing work experience with this young kid that comes to the Sikhi class? They'll be like, yeah, let's bring him in.
Yeah.
And then that will be their entrance to Sangat. So the possibilities are endless. And this is something I was going to come on to at the end, but we all have a role. It might not be making langar. It might not be, doing Amrit Billah Diwan. It could be anything. And I would say get involved with what you enjoy. My passion was teaching kids because I'm a teacher as well. So that's what we got involved with. If you enjoy sports, make a sports team for your Gurdwara. If you enjoy writing, make a news article for your Gurdwara. Help the Gurdwara, their Facebook page or their social media. The possibilities are endless. It's all about hitting that small circle of influence and just watching Guru Sahib expand it.
Hanji. And just one story that comes to mind, if I remember it correctly, was when Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj and Bhai Mandeep Singh and Bhai Balaji were traveling to a village, and the people in the village were actually really raw to Guru Sahib Ji and to the Guru Sikhs with them. And Guru Sahib Ji said to them, I hope you guys stay here, right? And then they carried on to another village and they showed him a lot of love in that village. And then Guru Sahib Ji said, I hope you guys all spread out and you all leave this village, right?
Anji.
And Bhai Mandeep Singh got quite confused, right? Saying that, the ones that were so nice to you, you told him that I hope you guys spread out, don't stay in this one village. But the ones that were kind of raw and rude to you, you hope that they all stay together. And you heard the story.
Yeah, Hanji.
And then Guru Sahib explained to them that The reason for that was because the ones that had the good divine qualities, the loving qualities, they should be spreading out, spreading it to everybody.
Yeah.
But those that are, the selfish, rude ones, they should just stay to themselves, right?
Yeah.
And not spread out. And that's kind of like what Sikhi is, right? That we're meant to be taking it out, taking to the whole of the world. But like you said, in different professions and inspiring people that, like you said, if you're an accountant, like you mentioned earlier, if you've got different types of skills, then you should be bringing them into the Guru card as well, but taking them out into your field. So one example of that with yourself is that you're a teacher, you're a maths teacher, right?
Hanji.
And you teach at a private school?
Yeah, so it's an independent school, yeah.
Is it a religious school or is it just a...
No, it's a normal.
Okay, normal school. But in that school, you have a Sikh society, right?
Hanji.
And that's crazy when you think about it, right? In universities you hear about it, but in a school, a Sikh teacher teaching Sikhi. So can you just explain a bit about that? Because it sounds really cool as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of kirpan.
How did it come about in the first place?
You know what? I've had so many little moments in my life where even if I tried to change it, I couldn't have, because I believe Guru Sahib's put me in a specific position. So I'll talk about how I got the job there first, and then very quickly how the Sikh society started. So I was training at School 1, for example. And School 1 was a grammar school as well, very good school, one of the top in Birmingham, going really well. They had an interview come up February for a maths teacher. And everyone was kind of nudging me saying, Karla, you're going to get it, right? Like, we all love you here, whatever, right? The kids love you and stuff. I was like, Chal, kar lunge. Got to the interview, came second. At the same time, there was another interview for this private school, which is also top in West Midlands, right? And I thought, Chal, it'll be a good experience. I'll get to see a nice school, right? I'll go and see how the other half live. So I thought, Chal, dekh lunge. So School 1's interview was on a Monday, I think. And the School 2's was on the Tuesday. And the School 2 one, I thought, I'm just going to give it a crack, see what happens. Good experience, right?
Yeah.
So I went to the School 1 one, had a really good interview, got to the final 2, and that evening found out I didn't get the job.
Okay.
The reason was because they were recruiting for a head of maths, and I couldn't fill that position. But what they said to me was, and I was really ducky. I couldn't understand, like, Guru Sahib, like, what's going on? Like, all the stars aligned, right? And I didn't get the job. I was like questioning things as well. And what they said was, off paper, that if anyone leaves now, we'll give you the job without interview. Huh? I was like, Jal, okay, I don't know if anyone's going to leave, but Jal, it's all right.
Yeah.
So then I went to this other interview, and I went, had an amazing interview, talked about Sikhi a lot, actually, and the Langar event we did at the university, and just organizing it. And they really took to that a lot. And talked about a few other things, had a really good lesson. And I thought, that was a nice experience. See what happens, right? And they were meant to ring me back 2 days later. I went back to School 1, had the worst lesson of my life that was being monitored, where kids started having fights with each other because of racist comments. My head was so messed up. So I just had this good interview. I missed the job yesterday. Just had the worst lesson of my life that was being judged. Went home feeling absolutely crap. Then I got a phone call from School 2 saying, you got the job? I was like, Thuddy. Then I was like flying in the clouds again. I was like, what is going on? Like, this is madness.
Yeah.
So then I went back to school, and like the school is amazing, right? It has a swimming pool and stuff.
No way.
I went back to School 1 because I was still training there, and someone left.
Yeah.
They're like, yo, Mandeep, you got the job? And I'm like, nah, man, I'm all right. And they're like, oh, they had the paperwork ready. And I'm like, I'm all right, I got the job. They were like, what? And they were like, even saying, like, you haven't signed yet, you can still take the job. And I was like, in a bit, man, I'm here to So then all that happened. I was like, and then I realized, oh, this is why I didn't get that job, and this is why things are happening. So then I went and started at that school, and Bhai Singh, who's here, emailed me very funnily saying, bro, there's a guy at a school that wants a Sikhi assembly. Can you do it? And I checked the school, and it was a school I got the job at.
Wow. I have not heard this story before, man.
It was a school I got the job at. And then I was like, what the hell? I just started, this is the day I started there.
Yeah.
And I was like, who's this kid? And he's a sixth former. And his mom's number was written. So I rang his mom. I was like, oh, I'm actually teaching at the school. She's like, what? I was like, yeah. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And then I spoke to him. He's like, what? You're a teacher? I was like, I have no idea what's going on. Let's just go with it. And then I thought, Jal, we'll get used to it. The school is very cool in the sense it has loads of societies, like a university. There's a lot of autonomy. The kids are quite mature and wise in that sense. They're very inquisitive. So there'll be loads of societies. There's religious societies. There's a a Lego society, there's a movie society, there's a judicial society, there's a law society, everything, right? So I thought, I'll just take it easy. I'll go in, and maybe in a year's time, I'll try and identify the Apne kids. Then I'll maybe ask them if they want to start a Sikh society. Before that sixth form even asked me about the assembly, like, sir, can we start a Sikh society?
No way.
I was like, why Guru? Like, this is mad.
Yeah.
So he actually went and started it, and I was the teacher that overlooked it. And then from the next week, we had a Sikh society. And then it grew. A few kids even kept their case, Guru Kirpa.
Wow.
Kids are now leading talks. And we even have a Santya class in the school.
No way.
So every Monday lunchtime is Santya. Every Thursday lunchtime is Sikhi class. We'll just talk about, we do 1 week history, 1 week Gurbani. So we'll talk about like something from Itihas. Then the other week we'll look at Hukamnama and just discuss it. And yeah, it's, we've been there 2 years now. And that the year 9s are at a point where they're leading the society. And they get involved in camps and stuff now. And it's very blessed in that sense, because these are kids that are going to Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard, all the top universities. And for them to have a foundation in Sikhi, I feel as if, who knows what's in the future, but I feel as if that's my seva for now. Like getting those, not that I'm to anyone to do it, but like passing my knowledge of Sikhi onto those kids that will maybe go on and do some huge things with it, right? So it's very interesting how it all works. And that was one thing where I just blew my mind, like, this is crazy how it's happening. But Guru Sahib puts you wherever you need to be. But at the same time, as he said, I was lucky enough that for the past 3-4 years, I'd been learning Santya and I'd been doing talks. So I could very easily take that seva on. Now, as much as a new teacher just getting into Sikhi, if you haven't got that wealth of knowledge behind you, there's only so much you can do. So I guess also you need to be in a position where you're ready for whatever Guru Sahib puts you in as well. And if you're not, don't worry, just start making steps towards it. And Guru Sahib will put you there again.
And also just to echo on this point, even if you don't have the support of the school, so like when I was in school, even though I went to a Sikh school, we didn't have the support like of the teachers to start a Sikhi club. So we just started it ourselves.
Yeah.
And literally sometimes we were like, there was a lot of fights with the teachers and arguments and stuff. But like Maharaj Kirpa, it worked out slowly and it grew. And then by the time we left sixth form, it was still carrying on. And then the younger years were taking over the seva. But I think it's dead now, but
yeah. You see these like, Seva, I guess we're talking about the state of Gurdwara. It can be extended to your professions. Sikh society is a huge thing at universities, right? A lot that makes or break. I got into Sikhi or redeveloped my Sikhi at Sikh society. So it doesn't always have to be in a Gurdwara setting. Gurdwara should be a firm part of it, but your route might be, or your Seva might be something else. So that's really important to talk about as well. But yeah, it's been a crazy ride, and I believe that I'm not just someone special. I think because for whatever reason I thought I wanted to get involved, Guru Sahib just took that as a nishani and just put me somewhere. And I think if you show that enthusiasm and you make the effort, I guess Sikhi is about uddam, right? It's about effort.
Yeah.
If you put the effort in, if someone's just sitting at home and they don't want to get involved, Guru Sahib is not going to present you an opportunity, right? Well, they might, but you're more likely if you're surrounding yourself in that space. And the main thing is do ardas. Even with the Sevadaars we have, with the kids camps we do, everyone says the same thing. We all used to do ardas for Sangat and for Seva. And in the most randomest ways, we've crossed paths. Like there's one Singh I went to sixth form with. We kept that case at the same time. And then we were doing a kids camp and he had me on Instagram and he saw it and he's like, bro, I'd love to donate to this. I was like, oh, wicked, here's the bank details. He donated, we didn't speak. Then he donated again after another camp and we were just about to do Singh's camp and I hadn't spoken to him in like 5 years. I go, bro, do you want to come to Singh's camp? He's like, all right, yeah, let's go. He came and now he's stuck in Sangat. Marakirpa, he took Amrit.
Wow.
People just need love, honestly, and people need a calling. I think the biggest thing you can do is create a platform that brings people together. Gurmat camps, regular seva at Gurdwara is a breeding ground for that stuff. And it's very hard to do things as an individual. For people like us that are in these situations and very blessed to be, our aims now are to create platforms and spaces where we can invite other people in that don't have access to this kind of stuff. And that's where your careers networks, that's where your Sikhi camps and asking the parents or the siblings to get involved come in. That's where, your monthly cleanups or your store seva comes in. So I guess for us now, it's about orchestrating that for a lot of people and creating that platform. and it will grow. It will grow so much.
Well, thank you for that. Is there any final points or any other vichar that you want to do? Otherwise, we can finish off this
I think,
podcast.
I'll just finish off with, I guess, the scope for Gurdwara.
Yeah.
I think we get so bogged down into what a Gurdwara currently looks like. And in a way, it's desensitized us to the potential of Gurdwara. So I think, it's important to think about where we could take things. And they're not that far off either. So things that I'd love to see Gurdwara do, getting more involved in, is investment in youth, offering scholarships for academia and even sports. Our Gurdwara should be hubs for sports. If you look at any good community, any strong community, they have a strong sense of sport. And quite often sport brings communities together. So I think investment in that sense. If you look at academia now, like university academia for Sikhi is a mess at the moment. And a lot of people don't like those in power that control Sikhi academia. If we can influence people to go in and start researching, and the funding is there from the Gurdwara, then people will join into these things. I think we also need to think about how Gurdwara are structured, and in a sense, treating it like an organization or a company, not from the spiritual aspect, but in terms of its governance. Why shouldn't we have someone on a desk as a receptionist that welcomes someone in and asks how they're doing and asks how they can help? Why shouldn't we have a training program to train youth that want to become Gyanis? Why shouldn't we have a degree for them for 3 years? Why shouldn't they have a good pay at the end? I was at an interfaith event and I was talking to a Christian pastor, and I was just like, what's the route for you guys? Like, how are you treated? And he was loving it. He goes, we're paid to do a master's, up to a master's level. So that's 4 years of education by the Church of England. Then we have a private house paid for us. Our kids go to an independent school. The fees are paid. We have private health insurance. And to be honest, money isn't a problem for us. We have a lot of money. And I know Gurdwara are sometimes struggling and there's building funds and stuff. But if our money is pooled correctly, in 5 years, we could have an English-speaking Gyani, an English-speaking Granthi in every Gurdwara in England. That's not a far thing to do if everything's structured correctly. So I think that's really important. Even things like the welfare of Granthis and Langaris, it is quite unsolicited. They liaise with the committees, and the committee basically sets the price. We'll pay you this. If you don't like it, do one. So even things like creating a union for the Gyanis, somewhere they can go and speak to. So like, I've been mistreated, or I haven't been paid this month, or someone's put this allegation on me, or whatever, right? I think there's so many things we can do. The possibility is endless. And I think just going forward as well, one thing, if you want tangible things you can get involved with, and things that I've seen have had a massive impact on Sangat, one thing is English translations. So Punjabi is very important. What we started doing, and if you have a basic understanding of Gurbani and you can read Gurmukhi and you can watch a few YouTube videos, you can do this. So Sangat that come to Sukhmani Sahibs or counterparts, a lot of them, I'd say 70% of them don't generally come to the Gurdwara much or come to weddings. That's an opportunity for us to show them the Gurdwara is for them. So what we can do, and this is what I've done a lot of the times, and I know there's a few organizations trying to create a structure for this, is at the end, wherever the Hukamnama was, get your phone out and do a quick English translation about it. Even explaining to people what a Hukamnama is, the fact that this is Guru Granth Sahib Ji speaking to you directly. Most people think the Granthi is saying something.
Yeah.
So they'll get up and they'll start like just speaking with their kids. Just explaining to them that, look, this is the Guru speaking to us. You should be respectful at all times in the Darbar Sahib, but if not anywhere now, anytime else, now you should be quiet. You shouldn't leave. They'll be like, okay, that makes sense. And they won't leave. They'll sit with attention, right? And then explaining to them that if it's a kid's birthday, what's Guru Sahib saying to the kid and the family? If it's someone's Anand Karaj, what's someone saying to the couple for their marriage? That one message could open up a whole new avenue for them. And I've had Sangat members come and say, we're so grateful. I had no idea that the Guru could speak to us. I didn't know that I was being told something every time I come to the Gurdwara. And then they've just started learning, and then they come to the Wahguru course, and now they take an Amrit. So it's not a numbers game, by all means, but people, I think Gurdwara Singh used to say that Sikhi doesn't need to be sold, it just needs to be told. So that's one thing you could do very, very quickly. And that takes, all you got to do is speak to the Gyanis or the Grantees or the committee, ask when the programs are, go to one a weekend. That's 20 minutes of your weekend. But the effect that will have on Sangat, huge. And be around for 10 minutes after to speak to them and become a regular face. And I said, I'll finish with this. I think the main thing is making people feel welcome at Gurdwara and giving them a sense of belonging. And it's hard to facilitate that. And that might just be a quick conversation. How's it going? You off to work today? How was your weekend? Or do you come to the Gurdwara much? What's your background? This is how I got into Sikhi. It'll go a long way. I think, everyone has their little role to play.
Any points got to be seen?
I think just to reiterate a lot of the points that Apaji said, that change starts on an individual level, right?
Yeah.
That we just need to show up, and goes back to that building that circle of influence. But just the main thing is just show up and start somewhere, to start anywhere.
Yeah.
That's the main thing I think we can take away.
Anji, and just thank you so much for coming on the podcast, even actually recommending this topic as well. It just gives everybody, even myself, more of a deeper insight into how our Gurdwara Sahibs are run and actually how we can get involved. And I'm sure we've given many examples, but maybe inspired some people as well to actually get involved in the Gurdwara Sahib as well.
Hanji, yeah, I know we talked about this at camp, and it opened, a lot of people shared a lot of opinions about this and their experiences.
Yeah.
One thing, I know I've said this before, but we'll finish on this and then I'll give a bit of a plug as to a project we're thinking about as well. I remember Harman Singh saying to us about Parcharak when we were at the Vidyalaya, and he said that don't think of Seva as a chore. Think of it as your opportunity. Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj just started this revolution, and it's going to happen whether we get involved or not. Like sometimes I think if I don't do the Sikhi class, the kids aren't going to learn. If the kids aren't to learn, Guru Sahib will put something for them to learn.
Yeah.
Guru Sahib has given me and all of us an opportunity to be a part of that revolution. If we don't take it, there'll be 100 people waiting behind us. So grab it with both hands. And it is really fun. It does get very exciting. So I would say don't see Seva as a chore. See it as your chance to be a part of the revolution Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj has started. And you will save yourself as a result. Quite often we think, I'm doing this Seva for the Gurdwara, or I am doing this Seva for the kids. But actually, you're transforming your own life because of the position you put yourself in. And just finishing off, I know a lot of people over the past years have asked about Gurmat classes and asked how we've got started and asked for resources and syllabus recommendations and just generally tips. We are hoping in the summer to do a 3-day, 4-day course, depending on how many people are interested. So that'll probably be based in Birmingham. And I want to create a Gurmat school network where people that run Gurmat schools can share resources, because so many great things happen that we don't hear of. And if people would like training, we can give training as to how to quickly make a PowerPoint in half an hour for a Sikhi class you're doing, how to engage with parents, what fun trips can you do, how can you make it fun for the kids. In essence, it will be a CPD, a training workshop for 3 or 4 days in Birmingham. So if you are interested, please message or comment, leave your email, and we'll maybe get a poster out as well closer to the summertime. And in essence, it will be a network where we can share, and myself or any of the other Sevadaars can come down to your Sikhi class and give some feedback or offer some advice. In essence, making sure that people feel they have the resources and the help to start these initiatives, because it can be quite daunting. And even if it's that, if we know people in the committee that we could speak to, we can also help in that sense as well. So I know a lot of people ask for that, and Guru Sahib's Kirpa will do a dry run of that in the summer if the demand is there from the Sangat. So if you are thinking about starting something in that front in your Gurdwara, please do drop Basis of Sikhi an email. There'll be a link or something around here maybe. I don't know how to do this. Or just drop them a direct message, and hopefully we can have a chat in the summer.
Well, awesome. The links will be in the description for how you can contact us. Thank you so much, Mandeep Singh, for joining us on this podcast. And if you've made any mistakes or offended anyone, then please forgive us for that. Again, please leave your comments in the comment section. If there's something that we didn't cover and you want us to cover going forward, or you want Mandeep Singh back on to talk about something else, maybe more by his own experiences in India, or wherever it could be, or getting involved in a school and stuff like that, then please let us know. And thank you so much. Finish
Thank
off.
you guys. Yeah,
Okay.
that's brilliant.
Waheguru Ji Ka
Waheguru Ji Ka
Khalsa,
Khalsa,
Waheguru
Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.